I wish that was a joke about the senior thing. Hi, I'm Carrie Fisher, and I'm an alcoholic, manic depressive Libra. I'm trying to give a face to mental illness, and I just hope that face doesn't have too much makeup on. My goal is to make mental illness enviable, which I haven't quite pulled off yet, but, there's still a little time. The manic end can be really fun. Or not, if not for those around you. I am thankful for this event to raise awareness and money for mental illness. I'm lucky I've been able to underwrite being insane for these many years. Not insane, but I couldn't think of anything worse than being mentally ill and not being able to afford to be mentally ill. It's a very expensive disorder. But there are a lot of people who can't afford anything other than to be politically incorrect. There's shopping carts and some cardboard, which I'm glad is not me. Everyone with mental illness really deserves good care, which I've been able to have, and equal opportunity equals insanity. No, something. Anyway, what they teach you in mental hospitals is how to be mentally ill better, which I'm managing now. I wasn't that good at it to begin with. I was diagnosed at 24, which I think is late. It was inadvertent because I had a psychotherapist to begin with who told me he thought I was hypomanic, which sounds like I'm going to get about a shot of something. And really, I was a drug addict at that point, and you can't diagnose someone who is actively using, because if you're doing it right, and I was, it all looks like mental illness. It's when you stop that the real fun begins. Treatment can provide you a community so you realize you're not alone, and that there are actually people that are probably worse off than you are. And that there are ways to cope with all this and tools to help you. I went to quite a few places, but I went to one place called Silver Hill, which the other night gave me an award. I think if I get enough awards for being mentally ill, you can trade them in for sanity, but you have to get a whole bunch. Forgive me if I seem, I've been mentally ill for a long time, and so you have to put up with me because this is how we talk. But they have a really distinguished alumni at at Silver Hill. They had Philip Roth there, and they had William Styron. And so, I didn't hope to, both of them went on to get Pulitzers, which I don't necessarily expect, but, one of those Golden Lion Awards, or, it's all okay with me. But, we were actually in a group in the bipolar cabin. At this place, there's like the Mothership Institute, and then there's all these little satellite houses. And there was a woman that had come down from the main house, which is where they kept the more acute cases refrigerated. And actually, that was the first time that I'd ever heard of ECT, which this woman said that she had decided to commit suicide, but she thought, well, maybe I'll go to the mental hospital and get ECT first. I can always commit suicide. And she said it literally like, if you said, what time is it? She'd say suicide. It was that offhand. So she said she could always commit suicide, but she'd try this out first. So that was the first time I heard of it. But it did have such a stigma associated with it. I'm afraid that it took me many years to undergo that treatment, and I'm sorry it took that long, because I've been having it over the last, say, 3 years. And really, they've been the most productive years of, God knows, probably the last 20. Any questions so far? I'm probably joking, but you never know. So anyway, so this, okay, I just have some of these notes written down, though I don't really know why I do, because I just ramble on and on. We actually called the main house the Panda Pavilion, because there was a woman up there who ran around the yards, and she had black around her eyes. And so we called her Panda Woman. And the rumor was that she had actually been, she had choreographed the Rolling Stones, and that someone had given her a sheet of LSD, which she had taken and then never come down, and Mick Jagger was paying for her care. Now, that turned out, of course, to be not true, as romantic as it sounded, and I thought, if you ever watched the Rolling Stones, I don't think I ever thought, who choreographed those people? They are awesome. Well, it actually turns out that this woman was a schizophrenic, and she would cast spells as she went around. And she came from a very, very wealthy family, and so could afford treatment. And that her care, the rent that she had paid for her care, actually helped pay for the main house, which was where it got its name. She was literally from some kind of Gulf and Western, you know, family. But the care is extremely expensive, and so a lot of people don't get it, and I do see those people a lot. When you first get to many of these mental hospitals, they put you in a process ward. And I was in one with a woman who had anorexia. And she weighed about 70 pounds. And she had a small, thin layer of fur covering her. Because apparently if you don't eat enough, and you're not heating yourself from within, your body will produce this fur to make sure you... And I had never seen that before. This was astonishing to me. There was also a guy there who had such bad obsessive-compulsive disorder. He was in a wheelchair because he had so many rituals that he couldn't get out of bed without going through them. So he never got out of bed, and all of his muscles atrophied. So I was just glad that I was, you know, not covered in fur and not in a wheelchair. So you know, when I first got there, I thought, I look awful. You know, and that's not fun. I know none of you ladies would like that. But I thought, hey, I'm in a mental hospital. I don't have to look good, you know? If there's anywhere that you're allowed to look like shit, it is a mental hospital, right? So I think, you know, because what's going to happen? I'm going to meet someone here? It's not exactly a place where you want to hook up, right? I mean, though it's a great idea for Hollywood. Their minds were broken, but their hearts were whole. Their love healed them, you know. So I think, well, at least, you know, I look terrible, and then everybody, I'm round the corner to the bipolar cross-addiction house, where I belonged, and there was the most gorgeous man I had ever seen in my entire life, not on screen. He looked like Errol Flynn, dashing. Remember that word? This guy was dashing, and I thought, shit, this is really not fair. I have to be mentally ill and look bad. This guy at least gets to look good while he's nuts. And next to him is standing this little blonde girl, his counterpart, who was underage, and that did turn out to be an issue later. We were actually told, if you see those two together alone, sit with them. Now, how fun could that be, you know? So what are they going to do in, like, the living room? But, anyway, and beyond them, though, this was good news. There was this little distinguished man who turned out to be the president of his very own country, in, I won't say, and who won a major award, and he didn't look that well. So I felt better about that, though it did turn out that he had very bad breath. And so I would just say, don't get downwind of the president. So But you know, I think everyone should be able to afford this care so you can hang out with presidents, and the guy, the dashing guy, was a pilot. Now at first, of course, he told us all it was like American Airlines. Turned out he was smuggling heroin and eating all his cargo. But you can, you know, hang out with princesses and pilots and presidents, you know, if these people can afford it. Because what's good about all brick and no mortar? You know, you need to mix it up a little bit. And I do wish that I had sort of gotten a hold of this earlier on, as I said. When you go to the main house at Silver Hill, they had a dining room where all the little houses had their own table, and the really bad table to be at was the anorexic bulimic table, where you were supervised. You could not get up to the bathroom, you couldn't hide your food on you. So, you know, it's like good anecdote, bad reality. You know, the stories are good, but you really don't want to be there. But luckily I had this daughter, you know, what was waiting out in the world was this daughter who had the kindest heart and this great capacity for, you know, understanding, which I hope someday to deserve. And thank God, a daughter who has not gotten this illness. My father had it, and we used to have some fun together. He once called me and I said, oh, I'm in Jackson Hole and there's fireworks. And this was like a couple years before he passed. And he said, I wish I had your life. I said, you did, Daddy. That's why you're in bed. So, you know, I've had a daughter, though, who's had to train those fine hairs on the back of her neck, you know, to get a sense of whether her mother's approachable or whether she should stay away. But always, always she did return. And you know, for people like the people around us, treatment is just as important as it is to yourself. And I don't say that because she's here tonight, because she's not. But she was at my, when I got my mental illness award in New York. And she just, you know, like so many children of people that have this disorder, she's imperturbable. I mean, you know, that doesn't mean it doesn't affect her, but anyway, but she doesn't have to come to all my presentations. She's allowed to skip some, but I'm not allowed to skip any until I get it right. I'm joking. I do love to speak about being mentally ill. Not as much as I love shopping, but I did hear about that raffle tonight, and I bought a couple of tickets, but Carrie was unable to cheat for me. So really, thank you all really for coming here tonight and helping people, your local mentally ill patients achieve their full potential, you know, so they can go on to run into fun people like me in a mental health facility. And I can teach them how to do their makeup, even if they're men. And then, of course, if they get really well, they can come, like me, and live next door to Debbie Reynolds, which is really the goal of anyone with a chemical imbalance.